Because, of course, we are looking at Safaricom's commitment to things society, environment, and of course, this has been a journey it has walked over the last 10 years. I'd like to also introduce my co-host for this morning, Godwin, who is our sign language interpreter. We also want you to keep the conversation going online. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. So today's theme is partnering for growth, transforming lives. And this is really a reflection of the Kenyan proverb, sticks in a bundle are unbreakable. And what that essentially means is the world's biggest problems cannot be solved by one individual or one institution. It has to be a collaborative effort, whether they be economic, whether they be societal or environmental. All right, so on that note, let's get into a quick and fun activity, some trivia, just to test your knowledge on the SDGs. I hope everyone in this room knows what SDG actually stands for. All right, so let's head over to kahoot.it. So I would encourage you to pull out your phone, open up your browser, and put in Kahoot, Kahoot.it. And it will prompt you to put in a game code. There you are, game pin 8097836. Or you can scan the QR code using your camera, and it will take you right to the game page. So we have a couple of questions, and we have some airtime for our winners today. So hopefully you are ready to go. Quite a few have already logged in. Kilonzo, Kane, Nyangi, keep them coming in. And we'll also have the leaderboard showing the scores as we go along. Fantastic. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to populate the screen. We are coming in thick and fast. Great, great, great. Again, the game pin 8097836. Great. All right, so I think we can move to the first question on SDGs as people continue to make their way into Kahoot. And these are pretty simple. At least if you are playing in this space, you should know Sustainable Business Report questions or related to environment. And the first question is, how many hectares of forests are destroyed globally each year? Take a wild guess. We're counting down. Answers are coming through. Great. Is it 1 million acres, 30 million acres, 10 million acres, or 15 million acres? The number of hectares destroyed globally each year. The answer is 10 million hectares. Wow. All right, to the next question. This is the scoreboard so far. So Test, I don't know who that is, but Desire is at 938 points. Pablo coming in close with 914. All right, let's see how we do on the second question. What is the focus of SDG number 3? Is it poverty, food security, good health, or gender equality? All right, the answers are coming in. Great. A couple more seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Let's take a look at some of the responses there. Good health is the correct answer and very close to food security. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam leading with slightly over 1,700 points. SDG champion, that is quite bold. You better be the winner with that name. And Diplomat with 1,587. Next question. Which of the goals below focuses on achieving sustainable development through partnerships? Is it goal number 6, goal number 17, 12, or 15? All right, 10 seconds to go. Answers coming in. Seems like we know this one. 5 seconds to go. Focuses on achieving sustainable development goal partnerships, which is big on what we're talking about today. Goal number 17. Great. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam, still leading. 2,731 points. SDG champion, close second. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Second last. What is the target achievement date for the SDGs? We should know this. if you've been following. You don't have to be part of the UN to know this. What year is it? 2050, 2030, or 2060? Less than 10 seconds to go. 92 answers in so far. All right, let's take a look at the answer. Pretty obvious. I don't know who put 2060, but it's fine. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam's still leading. Do you have any insider information, Sam? All right, let's go to the last question. Which are the 3 dimensions of sustainability? Environmental, social, behavioral, economic, environmental, socioeconomic status, physical environment, social or biological, or economic, environmental, and social. 5 seconds to go. The answers are still streaming in. All right, let's take a look at the answer. Economic, environmental, and social. Final look at the scoreboard. All right, SDG guy. Okay, congratulations, SDGs champion. And number 1 is Events Agency 2 at safaricom.co.ke. There you go. And we will get some airtime to you for participating. Wonderful. On that note, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this morning, Mr. Stephen Kipnitis, who is Safaricom's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, to make his remarks. Round of applause for him.
Thank you for the drum roll. I've always wanted a drum roll when I'm being introduced, so. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Safaricom. Welcome to the launch of our 11th Sustainability Report. We are really proud to be launching the 11th edition of our Sustainability Report. It's one of those things that we hold our heads high, not because all the things in the report are excellent and fantastic and positive, but because it's about honesty, it's about accountability. It's about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here goes. Our chief guest, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, members of our Safaricom Board of Directors, my CEO, Peter Ndegwa, all the other CEOs who are present here this morning, members of the Fourth Estate and the blogging community, my Safaricom colleagues, invited guests, those joining us virtually, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to host you as Safaricom at the launch of our 11th Sustainability Report. We've been hosting this event for the last 2 years virtually, so it's an absolute pleasure to have this physically this year. Last week at a media immersion, and I was having a chat with the Fourth Estate, and I was telling them that the launch of the Sustainability Report is really the tail end of a process. It's the icing on the cake. There's a whole process that goes into taking those ingredients, baking the cake, and getting to that point. And that's the process of engaging in all those requirements that feed into the report. And so this is sort of the celebratory end of the sustainability journey. For us, it's about sharing what our business has achieved, some of the things that we have done well, some of the things that we could have done better, and some of the things that, frankly, we didn't do well and we need to just change how we do them. It gives us an opportunity to celebrate what we are putting into the economy in terms of social impact, in terms of financial impact, in terms of uplifting and engaging with communities, ensuring that Safaricom is not just celebrated as a corporate titan, but as a purpose entity that is living purpose in every day. It also forces us to confront some of the difficult truths about what we could do better as a business. And that's the part of holding the mirror up and realizing that, maybe we need to go to the gym for a workout. We're a bit overweight. I'm sure that many times you would have looked in the mirror and thought to yourself, I could do better. And that's what this is all about. That's what Safaricom is doing through the sustainability report. And so I'm going to speak about the why we do this, the how we are doing it, and make a few closing remarks at the tail end of this. So our ability as a company to positively impact social and environmental change is a really crucial aspect of businesses today. At Safaricom, we are confident about taking the lead in this, but also at the same time inviting other businesses to join us on this journey. It's a journey that allows us to celebrate our wins, our challenges, and also gives an intimate description of our business. We live today in a much more transparent world than in the yesteryears, and it makes it easier for our stakeholders, our shareholders, our customers to hold our business to account to the things that we say we will do. It opens us up to being asked those tough, fundamental questions. Why didn't you do this? Why did you do this? And how can we do it better? And so this journey is about documenting what we have done. It's about sharing our challenges and successes in a public, open, and transparent manner. And that's why we have invited you all here today. The publication of this report is also to just raise awareness of sustainability challenges, the challenges that we face as a society in our country. There's a lot of good that all the corporates in this country can do. And I don't mean large corporates, I mean all corporates. Sustainability is not for huge, big, profitable companies. It's for the startup, because there is something that each of us can do. That startup which becomes a Safaricom, think about how that impact of sustainability when they are a startup to the point where they become a Safaricom would be over the years. The how of our reporting. It's not good enough to make claims about the levels of sustainability. As Safaricom, we have gone out there to provide tangible, credible demonstrations through following the proper guidelines for sustainability reporting. Our Sustainable Business Report is prepared in accordance with what is popularly known as the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, which is one of the most widely used standards for sustainability reporting. This is really to say that you can't go out there and create your own standards of how you want to report. You have to be held to account, and one of the ways that you can do that is through a GRI. We also engage in what is called sustainability report assurance. And this is the process of ensuring that our sustainability report meets certain minimum standards. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a painful process because it allows an independent party to look at our report and tell us, oh, come on, you're being a bit too rich here. You perhaps need to be a bit more about what you are saying about yourself. It also allows us to use what is called the KPMG True Value methodology. And this, again, involves getting an independent party to assess the total value that we are claiming we are creating in society over the year in question. And so we invite them to look at what it is we have said we've done, and they assess the value and come up with what is an assessed fair value of what we have done. The report also serves as our communication in progress. It's an explicit responsibility of our continued membership of the United Nations Global Compact and the Global Compact Network in Kenya. So what are the highlights of our 2022 sustainability report? Victoria has already said that the approach is that of sticks that are tied together cannot easily break. And therefore, we are stronger together, and we can do more to transform lives together. And that's why, again, as Safaricom, I like to use these words, we've taken upon ourselves the role of being evangelists about the need for sustainability and therefore sustainability reporting. In our sustainability activities, we do partner with many others. Many of you are in this room. We have partnered with you in our sustainability initiatives, leveraging our connectivity, leveraging on the platforms that we have, on the technology that we think we're really good at to realize our strategy of making Safaricom a purpose-led technology company by 2025. In this, we are guided by the SDGs, and specifically 9 of them. We're working our way towards the 17, but specifically 9 of the SDGs are what guide us in that journey. So this report covers the period 1st of April 2021 through 31st of March 2022. So our business has continued to contribute towards improving the quality of life of Kenyans across the country. As I indicated, the KPMG True Value methodology has conducted an inclusive assessment that is built on a foundation on exploring what are the new solutions that we could engage in, what are the new ways of creating value that we aren't already doing, that we could do so. For this report, the True Value Assessment calculates that Safaricom has sustained over 214,000 direct and indirect jobs in the period under review. And if you look at the wider effects on the economy, that number would increase to well over 1 million jobs, which is an increase of 9% from the previous reporting period. Some of the key initiatives that have supported this, and you will read this in our report, is our continued commitment to supporting local suppliers. We have increased our overall spend in local suppliers in the period under review by 3%. We have enhanced our procurement spend on women-owned, women-led businesses, and this is at a stable 2.29%, and we're really looking at enhancing that much, much more aggressively in the year ahead. Our target is to ensure that that figure for women-owned businesses in procurement can move to a figure of about 10%. The number of women participating in tenders, unfortunately, has reduced from 71% to 55% on year. Obviously, when we tender, you sort of expect a robust amount of responses, and if that has reduced, then it means there's something that is not happening right, and something that Safaricom is trying to look into to figure out how can women continue to tender for the procurement processes in Safaricom. One of the key barriers is access to finance. And in this regard, we've therefore established partnerships with entities like ABSA, Citibank, Equity Bank, the Kenya Commercial Bank, and indeed the Safaricom SACCO, to provide some of those supply chain benefits to our women suppliers. As part of our ongoing commitment to the SDGs, we also continue to work towards improving energy and our resource efficiency in our network and facilities to reduce our carbon emissions. Obviously, as a technology company, typically we would have very high carbon emissions. We have done quite well to try and reduce the carbon emissions in the last 1 year, and we have increased our overall emissions just by 1% in the period under review. This is important in order to arrest climate change, so that it moves from mere speak to actual actions. We need to protect our environment. And so accordingly, Safaricom has made a bold commitment to become a net zero carbon emitting company by 2050. I dare say that 2050 is in the mid-horizon. And I suspect that by then, Safaricom, being aggressive as it always is, will move from a target of being carbon neutral to being carbon positive. We can't just sit with a target that we set many years back and say that we're going to be carbon neutral. It's about making big, hairy targets, and we will move into a carbon positive target in due course. Environmental consideration is strongly linked to our purpose, and one of our ongoing priorities in our carbon offset reforestation program. And accordingly then, the aim is to plant 5 million trees by 2025. In the last year, under review, we have planted just over 300,000 trees, which brings the sum total to 1 million trees. So we still have about 4 million trees to go in the next 3 years. In conclusion, our achievements, setbacks, and targets, and details of this will be gone into by my colleague Karen, are a sign of our commitment to operating a sustainable business. And this is the promise we're making to our broad-based stakeholders. There's still a lot to learn. We could plant more trees. We could convert a lot more of our diesel generators into solar-powered generators. We could do a lot more to giving more business to the youth and to women. And this process of establishing our commitment to sustainable business fits squarely in our business strategy to recognize that commercial and business-driven approaches create the lasting economic growth that is needed to address social needs and empower communities. 11 years ago, Safaricom went out on a limb and committed to running a sustainable business and went ahead to say we want to be audited and we want to create a report, hence the 11th edition. We are chuffed as Safaricom to see that a few more organizations have committed to joining us on this journey, chief among them the East African Breweries and the Standard Chartered Bank. This journey is a journey of 1,000 miles, as the Chinese would say, and we started this journey 11 years ago. We have no intentions of stopping. We have every intention of getting more people to join us on this journey. We must commit to doing this all together for the good of the planet and for the good of our future. A former US president said, "The world must learn to work together, or finally it will not work at all." Safaricom is intent on making the world work for us together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Applause for Safaricom's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Mr. Stephen Kiptines. And as he said, Safaricom really wants to be the evangelist when it comes to sustainability and sustainability reporting. It's been on this journey, as he said, for the last 11 years, but not alone. They've had partners along the way, and this next clip will show you more of that work. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our next speaker, the Safaricom Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Peter Ndegwa.
Good morning everyone. Sounds like I got a louder clap than my corporate affairs head. Anyway, Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I should say that Victoria, I think you got the brief. You came in with the Safaricom green. Is it a coincidence, or it's just knowing your audience? When we were doing the Kahoot exercise, for those, especially those in the room, many of you, I don't know whether you realized, actually the answers were on the screen. All the SDGs are actually there. So some, I hope that you are not copying onto the screen. But anyway, I thought I should start on a lighter note. So our chief guest, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, we've worked together in the past many times, especially helping you host some of your guests from abroad. Principal Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, members of the Safaricom board who are present either here or online, fellow CEOs today who are joining us, my Safaricom colleagues, members of the media, those who are attending online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. For those in the room, good morning. I can't hear the guys in the online. Delighted to be welcoming all of us this morning again. And this is, I hope you're all safe. This is a real milestone when we are launching the 11th Sustainability Report. This morning, someone sent me a picture of the late President Darian Arap Moi signing a visitor's book when we were opening the Safaricom office. That must have been in early 2000. So Safaricom was very young at the time, and some of you who have been present by then know the journey that this business has taken. But I think the couple of things that Safaricom has been known for, one is a brand that is ubiquitous and a brand that is a household name across the country, but also a brand that cares about purpose. And that's beyond the fact that we are a big company and a very successful one for that matter. We have really had huge impact on communities in which we operate in. Many people, when they ask me, Safaricom is large and so on, I say we are large because we have made a big difference in society. We continue to combine the power of innovation and technology to solve customer challenges, but also societal issues that society actually face. And last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the big milestone to open another business and have a new baby being born, literally, even the advert as it says, in Ethiopia. And we hope that we'll take a similar journey. And that journey of 1,000 miles, as Steve has said, will also start and allow other Kenyan companies to follow on our path in the second largest country in Africa. So today I want to talk mostly about leading from purpose, but also partnering, because there's no one who can do this alone. So thank you for coming. So as my colleague Steve has shared, our sustainability business report is all about transparently talking about our successes and our setbacks, all of which are important to our business and the interest of our various stakeholders. And that's the reason why 11 years ago we decided showcasing both the good and the bad. But the bad is to help us to be able to improve in the years to come. This year's theme is about partnering for growth, transforming lives. It's about recognizing the power of partnership and collaboration in solving societal issues and driving responsible and sustainable businesses, whether you're a small business, a medium-sized business, or indeed a large business. Now more than ever, we are called upon to use this power of partnership to support the society that we serve. The reality is that we continue to face interconnected global challenges, and there's no time than now that we face. And as we shift from surviving the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to coexisting with COVID. Economic growth continues to be impacted due in large part to the war in Ukraine, the related impact on commodity prices, and the associated increase in import costs. And we are already feeling it both here in Kenya, but across Africa and beyond. In addition, and Safaricom and many of our partners, actually in this room, but also beyond, have been involved recognizing another poor rainy season in Kenya, hampered crop production, further compounding the economic situation. Despite these challenges, we continue to show resilience and commitment to ensure that we remain a purpose-led and responsible and sustainable business that transforms lives of the people that we serve. Let me talk briefly about partnership for growth and innovation. To be a responsible and sustainable business, you need partnerships. We all need partnerships. None of us can do it on our own, whether you are a government, whether you are private sector, and beyond. From our 22 years of experience, we've witnessed this firsthand and continue to do so, and you'll have seen from the video many examples of partnership where we innovate using our core strength, which is technology, to really deal with some of the challenges that face our society. Our current mission as a company is to accelerate new growth areas. We've been successful in connectivity and also in payments and to some extent credit, but we need to go beyond that to be able to broaden the ability of customers to access other services using technology. And also we need to do that in a way that also delivers great customer experiences. So as we digitize our experiences, we need to ensure that our customers experience the best. We want to be a purpose-led technology company by 2025 and beyond. For us to achieve this, we know we have that shared value partnerships are crucial. We want to leverage these partnerships to further promote socio-economic inclusion and impact areas such as agriculture, economic empowerment, education and health, and many of which are part of the SDGs. As a sustainable business, we know that the power of innovation is in impacting. We know the power of innovation in impacting the areas that I've just mentioned. Innovation helps us to stay ahead of the ever-changing environment and to be more responsive to our customers, colleagues, and community needs. As I often tell my team, unique is good. A functional solution that solves a societal problem is even better. We need to think about digital and technology, not so much because of technology for its own sake. And that's also one of the things we normally talk about internally. Technology is only relevant when it allows us to solve a challenge that exists in society, and either for customers, but also the broader society. As you'll read in the sustainability report, we are leveraging the power of partnerships to design, to co-create, and to develop meaningful products and services that deliver social impact and unlock new opportunities that align with our priority SDGs. We've chosen 9 SDGs out of the 17 to be able to focus on specifically as part of the way we do our business. It is through such innovations and partnerships that we've seen the value we create for Kenya society increase to 727 billion Kenya shillings, approximately 10 times greater than financial profit on a net basis. During the reporting period, our biggest innovation, M-Pesa, which celebrated 15 years, also celebrated 30 million customer mark, monthly active customers. And I dare say that since then, we've seen another 2 million join the franchise. And we saw its social value, this is the social impact of M-Pesa, increased by 14% to 275 billion Kenya shillings. Internally, our agile ways of working, and this is where we bring together commercial talent and tech talent to solve customer or societal challenges, which fosters collaboration across the organization and speeds up decision making, is not only helping us innovate better and faster, but also bringing us closer to our customers. Let me talk briefly about partnering for community and the planet. Perhaps the most important partnership piece is the contract that we have with our society and with our planet. We cannot do business if the society around us is failing, and we saw that during COVID, or if the environment is in turmoil. This is why we continue to partner with our community through our two foundations, the Safaricom Foundation and also the M-Pesa Foundation. As you'll see in the report, our Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundations continue with their work to transform lives, partnering with local and national authorities and others to make tangible differences across all levels of society. The two foundations have now impacted 4.2 million Kenyans in the past 3 years, with a target of reaching a further 6 million by 2025. When it comes to the environment, we've seen unprecedented global climate events in the past few years, with a growing impact on the African continent, contributing to food security. Kenya has not been spared with the current drought situation affecting more than 4 million in 23 countries. And I have myself been to Marsabit and Isiolo, so I've seen firsthand how this is impacting community. In response to this, we've launched Pamoja Tuungane campaign, which aims to complement the government's initiatives by providing emergency food relief. We've also worked with government to transfer money for free through M-Pesa, worth approximately 1 billion Kenya shillings. We set aside 100 million Kenya shillings as Safaricom for relief food, which we distributed in Marsabit to kickstart the campaign, and then called upon other corporates and Kenyans to donate cash and bonga points, which raised another 12 million. Last week, we were in Isiolo to distribute food purchased from this latest donation, and so far we have reached more than 100,000 people across the two counties. And this is just the beginning. The campaign also received plenty of in-kind support from other corporates in the form of logistics, as well as awareness campaigns in various media houses. We also, a lot of our partners in the Pamoja Tuungane are represented here, including partners such as KCB. We are now in talks with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance to see how we can push this further to include more corporates and broaden the appeal. We are also discussing about partnering to implement not just the short term, which is the emergency efforts, but also long-term measures to tackle the perennial issue of drought. Let me talk briefly about Africa Business Leaders Coalition Partnership. Whilst we discuss these measures, we are fully aware that climate change has been blamed for the current drought. While businesses cannot stop farming or alter the course correct of climate shifts already in motion, we can adjust our own behavior to help mitigate this crisis. However, this requires partnerships, not just to tackle climate change, but partnerships that help drive sustainable growth and prosperity of our communities. As part of fostering these partnerships, we are honored to be among the founding members of the Africa Business Leaders Coalition, convened by the UN Global Compact. The coalition provides a platform for Africa businesses to have a unified voice as we actively engage to work on the continent's most pressing issues. Ahead of COP27 climate conference to be held in Egypt in November, the coalition will focus its efforts on climate actions through climate statement to be signed by all members. I'm happy to announce that Safaricom will be joined by several companies present here as we make our commitments to the coalition and to the climate statement. We will hear from the CEOs and representatives of some of those respective companies shortly. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, Safaricom is committed to integrating a purpose-based approach to sustainability and to taking a shared responsibility for achieving a better world. I would like to thank our shareholders, our board, our communities, our business partners, our regulators, and the government who enable us to continue to provide services that keep Kenya running. I'm grateful to our customers who remain core to everything we do, but also to our employees for their dedication. We'll continue to combine the power of technology and innovation and leverage partnership to reimagine ideas, products, and processes and co-create solutions, especially in a digital world, that meets the needs of our current and future customers over the next decade and the future. Be sure to read about all the valuable lessons as captured in our sustainability report about how we continue to meet the needs of our customers and our communities, as well as protect the planet for the present and the future. I really thank you for coming here this morning, those who have come physically, but also online. And let's partner together for a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more round of applause for Safaricom CEO, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, reiterating the importance of leveraging on the power of partnerships. Now, we heard a bit earlier on that in the year that was under review, Safaricom managed to plant 300,000 trees. And we'd want to see a bit more on what this tree growing effort looks like in Kieni Forest. Take a look.
As a purpose-led business, we know our future is interconnected with each other and with the planet. One of our ongoing priorities is our reforestation program, which aims to plant 5 million trees by 2025 in order to rehabilitate 5,000 hectares of degraded forests.
Kieni Forest is one of the major catchment areas. It plays a big role, but especially in supply of water.
Kuna watu walikuwa wanafanya chakobani, kuna wengine walikuwa wanafanya longi. Wakati huo mvua haikukuwa inapatikana.
The public-private and people partnership between IFCMS, Kenya Forest Service and the local community forest associations aims to rehabilitate degraded forest zones.
With Safaricom, what we're trying to do is now focus on the monitoring of reforestation effort. There are certain parameters experts look at. How tall is a tree? What is its diameter? What is its crown? So we are developing technology that will be able to acquire these parameters very easily so that a forester can continually monitor the progress of these trees.
Thousands of indigenous tree seedlings are sourced from the community forest associations who also tend to the saplings.
The fertilizer which is being used by the community, it's also used by the plants. So the plants moves very fast.
As an added value within the partnership agreement, local farmers have some zones under agriculture cultivation that benefits communities in food production and other socio-economic gains.
Kitu mimi kinanifanya mimi niwe proud sana ni kuona watu wetu wote wameinuka kutokana na hii mradi ya Safaricom.
Deserves a round of applause. Fantastic work there by Safaricom in conserving the environment. I hope you're still tweeting. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. I've been taking a look at some of the tweets. Do we have airtime for the most tweets? No? Okay, but we encourage you to at least engage on social media. Now, our keynote speaker for this morning is Ambassador Macharia Kamau, CBS, and he was appointed as the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that was back in February 2018. He's a career diplomat with rich experience, and prior to that appointment, he served as Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York since 2010. Now, as the permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Kamau was instrumental in developing the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as the co-chair and co-facilitator. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, Ambassador Kamau, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Victoria. The last time I saw so much green, I think I was in high school. I was in a house where we wore green. It looks lovely, by the way. Yes, I come from a company called The Government, and we take our business very seriously. sometimes too seriously, as I can see all of you are taking that seriously. I'm really happy to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. Mr. Ndegwa, and your team. I also want to appreciate all the other CEOs who are here. Mr. Russo, who tells me he's from Rome, Samburu. And for those of you who know, well, it's okay. I won't explain that one. Just to say that this for me is always a very emotional moment. And you may ask yourselves, why? The SDGs were never meant to happen. And one of the questions that should have been asked is what's the connection between Kenya and the creation of the sustainable goals for the world and the 2030 agenda that has become the driving agenda for global cooperative development? How did little Kenya become this engine of thoughts and ideas for the world? And it's true that we were instrumental, both through our ministries here, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also through my presence and the presence of my team in New York, to help the world put together the Sustainable Development Goals, a process that took us 3 years of intensive debate. We were not supposed to succeed because nobody believed it was possible to agree on a global set of goals for the world. And these goals are the first in the history of humanity to put all of humanity on one set of goals with one agenda. And one of the biggest challenges that we were facing at the time was, of course, disbelief and a lack of understanding of how the world thirsts for leadership, for cooperation, for something better that then has been happening throughout the 20th century. And those goals that you see over there were an attempt to try to reach out to every single human being and every single community and every single living creature on the planet. Now that sounds extraordinary, and that's because it is. There's nothing on planet Earth, whether it has to do with trees, an ant, an elephant, we ferocious human beings who are destroying this planet, there is nothing that wasn't captured in those goals. And this was agreed upon by 193 countries on the planet. And Kenya was smack in the middle of it all. I heard the question, why 2030? Why 2030? Why not 2040? Or why not 2060 like the AU? Because there happened to be an influence, and we were looking at the model of our own development agenda and thinking how we can take the ideas of President Mwai Kibaki, who, as you know, was the great thinker behind our economic platform and our economic framework for development, and try to give those ideas global meaning and global relevance. So 2030, even though it was a 15-year time frame that the UN wanted to work with, worked very well with the thinking that we were having as we were trying to provide leadership for this process. I can tell you a lot of people, particularly in the UN community, did not believe that the business community would ever come on board. there was deep cynicism. Business was about making money and about making profits and about shareholder assets and enrichment. It was not about serving people, planet, prosperity, and fighting poverty. But we all came to realize very, very quickly that indeed, businesses, once you scratch just a little bit beneath the surface, all recognized that without a concerted effort to uplift humanity from poverty and degradation, without the concerted effort to create greater prosperity for all, that business themselves would ultimately fail. And the greatest joy for me at that time was to step out of the streets of New York. We used to work in a basement, so you can imagine 3 years in a basement. And one day you come out and you're looking around and you see on one of those great buildings, and this particular building was on 2nd Avenue and 42nd, owned by Pfizer, and right there were the Sustainable Development Goals, plastered up on the building walls. It took my breath away. I was jogging to the gym, and I stopped, and I stood back. And I thought to myself, I cannot believe this. After what we had been through, the pain, the anguish, the disbelief, here was one of the most conservative corporate entities on the planet embracing the Sustainable Development Goals and recognizing the value and the transformative power of these goals for business and for profit, even as they serve humanity. And this company, Safaricom, was an integral part of that transformation. Because while we were struggling to find corporate leaders from around the world who were going to come and help us make the case for bringing together corporations in the world, there was Safaricom, Bob Collymore, sitting with us in New York, telling us why he thought that he himself, with his history, with his experience, Roiro River, which was a beautiful place when I was a kid. We used to go to 14 Falls and fish. Now you go to 14 Falls and watch foam because of the pollutants in the river. But we have all to take these individual decisions as individuals to embrace every single one of these goals to make sure that we make this planet a better place for all of us. And Safaricom has begun to do this and has continued to do this. The report that you heard today, which was read to us, or at least introduced to us by Stephen Kipninis, this idea that they are evangelists, champions for change, for saving the planet, is an extremely noble idea. And that they make efforts to connect their business model to the goals, either through goal 10, reducing inequalities, you heard them all listed here, or through goal 5, promoting gender. After all, how many women now are better off and more prosperous at the bottom of the ranks of society because they have access to a smartphone that has Safaricom apps in it? How many? Countless in Kenya. How many of us are more effective and more efficient because of all of this? And efficiency brings prosperity, and prosperity uplifts all of us. The number of jobs that have been created by this company and its associates, the innovation that has driven financial inclusion through M-Pesa and other initiatives, reaching out, as you saw here, with MTIBA and other initiatives, reaching out to the environment. Every little bit of this helps to make this world a better place and to create greater prosperity for all of us. This was the idea in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, when we adopted the goals, and 2015, when we finally adopted the global agenda. This was the idea. And every CEO in this space, in this country, needs to ask themselves how they can do better to make this work better for all of us. Some of us in government, because we have too much gray hair in our head, or on our head anyway, still work with paper. I see everybody coming here with high tech. It's very impressive. When all of you were told to do that little challenge at the beginning by Victoria, I was fidgeting with my phone. I was like, no idea what to do. But that's a sign that the world has fundamentally transformed in a very short period of time. Because when I was the age of maybe the average person in this room, none of this technology was around. And I mean none. So I don't feel too bad. I actually feel quite impressive that I'm reasonably functional. But moving forward, I do want to tell you that we're not doing very well on planet Earth. We're not doing very well. The climate crisis is no longer a joke. It is no longer up for debate. And we all have to come together to realize that we need to do things differently. It is upending very mature and deep economies in the world. Let alone us. And if those economies are being upended, And if those societies are being disrupted, because it's about climate disruption, what about us? How are we to sustain our prosperity, our growth? Safaricom contributes, I'm told, about 5.7% to our GDP, or some such number. The climate crisis is destroying between 2.5 and 4% of GDP every year. Go figure what that means. It means we are running to stay in the same place. We have lost over 67% of our biodiversity since I was a kid. We used to start to do game viewing from Nairobi West. Yani tukielekea Mombasa, ama tukienda airport, game. Yes. When you landed at Nairobi airport in the early 80s, as late as the early 80s, you saw giraffes, zebra from the plane, from the window of the plane. And the captain, usually British Airways, Kenya Airways, would say, "Oh, look, we are in Africa." And everybody would look out the window. Giraffe, zebra, antelope in Kenya. The last time I took my kids down, which was about maybe 10 years ago, to Mombasa, I was very excited. Got myself a new SUV, I want to show it off a little bit. Piled my children in there, off to the holidays. I said, it's going to be what I imagined it used to be when I was a kid. I went to primary school in Mombasa. And some years, my parents would drive us down there. And it was an adventure. This time, we got past Athi River. We still hadn't seen nothing except ng'ombe za Wamasai. We got past Athi River, and we finally saw an animal. And it was dead. And it was a hyena on the road. We got a little further, began to see a few deers and antelopes, just then nothing. And it wasn't until past Voi, finally I saw an elephant. And I was just overcome with despair of what we have done. The three planetary threats that are upon us, that are upon you, that are upon our families, are the climate crisis and disruption, nature and biodiversity loss. We have lost entire forests, and with them, birds and bees and all kinds of life-enforcing creatures. And the third great and horrible threat is pollution and waste. These cancers that we're all struggling with, these diseases that we're all struggling with, are because of the pollutants in our environment. We have been warning about this for years. But it seems that the world is tone deaf. And that is why companies like Safaricom are so important, because they are swimming against the current. They are challenging the world to see things differently. So as I conclude, because we in Gava have lots of talking time, let me end with a couple of things. As you keep what I said in mind, yeah? The first is that these great companies, sir, must not be complacent. You guys are hot in your green kit, green emblems, nice building. There's nothing that undermines companies like complacency. I went to school in the United States, as you can tell from my terrible accent. And when I was there, Detroit was an incredible city. They used to call it the motor town. One of the biggest, most powerful engines of economic development in the United States of America. Every company that was building a car felt it had to be based in Detroit because of the backward and forward linkages and so on and so forth. 15 years ago, Detroit was dead for all intents and purposes. They were down to making watches. And in fact, it was a charitable, sort of quasi-charitable event. People had moved out. People had turned lawns into gardens to survive. Detroit. Technology came and did a number on the motor industry. Competition came and did a number on the American motor industry. An entire city the size of Nairobi went belly up. Think about that. Another famous city when I was a kid was called Rochester, New York. Big global company. It used to make cameras, Kodak. Used to call it the Kodak City. Kaput. Don't rest on your laurels, good sir. And don't let your staff rest on their laurels. Because once you get there, you think you're all that. And then it turns out you're not. And it happens very fast. Let me come back to the second thing, which is my second warning. That really, please, these three triple crises that I spoke about, embrace them, champion them, integrate them into your business models. It is for you. It is for your children. It is for the survival of this planet. It sounds like rhetoric, yeah? It's a warning. And like I said, if those huge economies, massive economies, are being shaken to their core, this is a message for the rest of us. But let me end on a positive note, which is my third point. The opportunities are tremendous. They are tremendous. But you have to think at scale. You have to think at scale. Kenya is just not big enough for Safaricom. Kenya is just not big enough for KCB, for the Nation Media Group, for Kenya Airways. You ought to be, and should be, a continental force. You have to think like this, guys, or else you will be wiped out by the force of other companies from other parts of the world. You have to strategize. And we in government are working double time to try to create that opportunity for you through the East African community. My friends, every shilling you earn, between 25 and 30 cents of that shilling that's in your pocket comes from the fact that we are in this East African community. That's what regional integration does to economic development, which does to your income. Take our community seriously. Invest in it, grow in it, integrate yourself to it. Use it as a launch pad for the next community that we are trying to set up for you, we as governments. The Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement. It's there. We just exported the first batteries and tea last week. It's your market. If you think your market is to move from here to Kajiado to... things are tight. The opportunities are tremendous on this continent. And it's virgin territory. You just have to go to some of the countries on our continent and you will know it is virgin territory. Waiting for you, some of the greatest entrepreneurs on this continent. Waiting for you, some of the greatest investors on this continent. Waiting for you, some of the most hardworking and entrepreneurial people on the planet. Waiting for you. This is our opportunity. It really is. And we must seize it. This company must become a continental powerhouse if it is to truly realize its full potential. And all the companies must begin to think strategically how to use the government platform and the government opportunities to project themselves out there. Because those companies that have done so have seen profits grow exponentially. And if you want me to name them, I'll name them for you. But governments speak for too long. Happily, I will say this, that one of those moments when I realized we are a special nation with a special people, with a truly transformative capability in the world. Yes, in 2013. Then again in 2015. Because I happened to be there, not because of any other reason. I'm sure there are many, many other examples in the world. The other moment was during COVID, most recently. This country has transformed itself in the last 2 to 3 years. Our global presence and how we are understood and respected in the world changed fundamentally, because it was during COVID that somehow we realized the incredible benefit of the foresight of the digital and fiber optic network that we have in our country. Countries that were richer than us, deeper in their economic and social integration than us, were struggling because they hadn't invested. They hadn't had the foresight of the fiber optic network that we have in Kenya. And so, what happened? Government didn't stop. Services were continued. Entrepreneurs were still able to function and make their living. Hospitals were being built at historical rates in Kenya during COVID. Classrooms were being built at historical rates in Kenya during COVID. And most of that coordination and cooperation was on the back of a digital fiber optic network that allowed Kenyans from the north, the south, the east, the west, and every single county to speak to each other. This is a great country, my people. We are a great people. But it's like religion. You have to believe it. Thank you very much.
Wow, another hearty applause for our keynote speaker, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Principal Secretary, Foreign Affairs, with a sober reminder of where we are as a planet and the reason why we just can't afford to be complacent, especially at this time. I think I gained a greater appreciation, and many of you in this room and watching, for what it took to develop those SDGs, from a basement in New York to now what is a global movement. Now, moving on to our next session of the program, we've heard a lot about the report. What is in it is the question a lot of us have in this room. And our next speaker is going to, for lack of a better term, open up the servers, okay? So that Safaricom is not accused of being opaque with their reporting. So I'd like to invite Karen Bassier, who's the Director of Sustainable Business and Social Impact here at Safaricom, to take us through the report. Round of applause for her.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Ambassador Macharia. You've said it all. I feel so under pressure to deliver after your fantastic speech. But thank you for reminding us where the journey started, and thank you for giving us the reality on the ground. So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here this morning to share with you the key highlights of our 11th Sustainable Business Report. And yes, it's been 11 years of sustainability action, sustainability reporting, and always putting the mirror in front of us, as Steve said. And this job has not been done by one person. It's done by 50 plus champions across the business, 100 data owners. So I'm gonna try summarize what 100 people have put together to deliver this report. The team is led by Steve Kiftines, who's our Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, and we are supported by our champion, Peter Ndegwa. So thank you so much, Peter, for giving us the space, giving us the time, and also being able to keep us accountable as we walk this journey of sustainability in Safaricom. All right. Steve already mentioned part of this. We use the GRI reporting framework. The SDGs were a blessing to Safaricom. And from 2016, we started integrating the SDGs in Safaricom. And our dream at that time was that anybody who works in Safaricom would see that they do more than just coming to work. They transform lives, and they use the 9 SDGs on the board. So the SDGs give us the framework in which we make sustainability a reality. Over the years, we are now able to do trend analysis. We have longer periods. We can see how we've been performing year on year for the last 11 years. The report is balanced. We give the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we have made bold targets as we move forward, and bolder commitments around innovation, employees, customers, and our material issues. So in the year under review, this section covers the numbers, if I may call it that, and I have only chosen to focus on people and environment because Steve and Peter gave you a flavor of some of the numbers. So under the people section, we are not